You guys, you know how we just have some of those relatives that we just don't mess with, right? Hey, welcome to Queen's Roots. My name is Queen Mother. I am your spiritual and metaphysical teacher. Here on my channel, I help guide you along your spiritual journey to help you reconnect with who you really are, help you to identify your purpose as a spiritualist, and how to incorporate the metaphysical tools into your daily life to help you become the person that you are desiring to become. In today's topic, we are discussing how to deal with the bad ancestors. So what to do with those ancestors. Before we get started, I want to thank you all for joining me. You guys, you know how we just have some of those relatives that we just don't mess with, right? You know, we have some of them relatives who just be on some real wop shit. It feels so crazy stuff, and we just don't mess with them in their life, in the real life. So what happens when they pass away and now they want to have that reconnect with you because they're deceased? All right, I'm going to show you what to do with this in this video. Before I get started, well, this is my first topic. So the first thing to do when you're dealing with bad ancestors is going to be on you. And I'm going to help you identify what classifies as bad ancestors. But before I do, I want you to acknowledge that the work that has to be done. There are going to be some ancestors that you're not going to approve of. There are going to be some ancestors you're not going to be happy with. There are going to be some ancestors that may have hurt you. There may be some ancestors you may not really want to fool up with. You'll be like, what? This person is kin to me? Ugh. But when these ancestors identify themselves or they come to you, you have the option to, you still have the option to control who and what you want on your ancestor altar. If you choose not to incorporate them into your ancestor altar, I'll get into this a little bit later. I'll tell you what to do with these ancestors. But you have to be willing to heal, and you have to be, and by healing, I mean you have to be willing to be open to these ancestors. If they are coming in and they want to make amends for the things that they have done, you have to listen. You have to listen. You sometimes, when we pass away, hindsight is a bitch, and we all know it. So when, and our ancestors get it too, when they pass away, we all go back to home, back to the spirit world, and we have to review what we did on this earth. And I'm going to get into that in another video, in an upcoming video this week, so stay tuned for that. But we have to review what we did on this earth, and through those things, we may not have always understood on earth what we do that may actually hurt other people, how our actions really cause chaos in other people's lives. We may have been thinking selfishly, and it caused a ripple effect, and it affected everyone. But those choices, when they pass, they have the opportunity to review all of those little choices. They have the opportunity to see how those choices affected other people. They have the opportunity to understand how much pain they could have caused, how much happiness they could have caused. So if they come back, even if they did something on the earth plane and they weren't ready to be acknowledge their faults, they're probably going to go back home and understand that, hey, I really fucked up, and I did this person wrong, and I want to apologize. And when they come to you with these apologies, it is your job to take the apologies or not. However, in order for you to move on as well, for you to move on and for them to move on, accept the apology. Just because you listen to what they're saying, accept the apology, learn to forgive them, because that healing, that apology, that you may not have gotten in face-to-face, or you may not have wanted face-to-face, or you may not have wanted to deal with face-to-face, or be open to, that person may be apologetic in the spirit world, and they may be able to feel like they can come to you differently and apologize, and you'll be a little bit more open. Be open. It is all a learning curve. It is a lesson for all of us, and I'm sorry if any of you were hurt in the process of it, but we're all learning how to handle life and the choices that we make. And you know, we get hurt a lot in the process, from serious stuff to very minute things. So we get hurt a lot in the process. So remember to allow that apology to come in, accept it, work on that broken heart. If your mom disappointed you when you were growing up, if she broke your heart, she abandoned you, your father was on crack, or you were abused as a kid, allow that apology to come in and work on that for yourself so you can let it go, because you yourself are healing and you're closing that chapter officially for you and that person. So allow them to apologize and allow yourself to heal. Accept the apology. Now, you can hold on to it, you can be bitter, but when it comes down to you're gonna have to face it at some point. So if you can deal with it now, let it go. But you don't have, just because you forgive them, it doesn't mean that you have to incorporate them into your ancestor altar or any rituals, but I'll show you what to do with that very soon. So the second tip that I have is helping you identify, okay, so I want you to identify what exactly is bad ancestors. So we have ancestors, believe it or not. We have some ancestors, like I said, who may have physically hurt or harmed you. If you have been a victim, that someone who has been affected sexually or by a relative, that is one of them. You know, you may have a relative who sexually abused you or molested you, or sexually abused or assaulted you. You may have a relative who caused physical abuse to you. You may have a relative who hurt you from drug usage, or maybe a relative who stole money from you. You may have, believe it or not, some of the biggest evil people that we don't like to think, they had relatives. So you could have been very well find that one of your ancestors was a slave owner, and one of your relatives direct relatives was a product of rape. You know, you could find out that there was some incest in your family. They could find out that one of you could be related to Hitler. Hitler is somebody's ancestor, believe it or not. If they want to claim it or not, Hitler's in somebody's bloodline. Now, so when you have bad people, or you think are bad people, people who made horrible choices when they hear, those are the people that we're talking about. Those are the people who, those aunts and cousins and moms and granddads and kids who really disappointed you, or who turned out to be like mass murderers or rapists or whatever it is. You know, those people are going to pass away, and unfortunately they're going to join your tribe. I'll get into another video for that another time, but they're going to go back and join their tribe, and that is a part of you. You're all a part of the soul family as well as a blood family. So what you can do is, if you choose not to acknowledge those relatives, you can. When you're setting up your ancestor altar, you don't have to include their names, you don't have to include their pictures. You can set aside a separate space for these ancestors. And so that's jumping into the tip number 3, is you are setting up a separate space for these bad ancestors. So the separate space, you may just choose to set up a space where, say, hey, you know, I realize that you are my relative, but you can create like a smaller altar, maybe an altar that's on the floor, an altar, or maybe a space in your mind. You say, hey, listen, I'm not ready for you to be on my sacred space. I'm not ready for you to be in my holy space. I'm not ready to be that intimate with you, or that open and vulnerable. I'm not ready to call on you right now. You really hurt me, or I'm kind of embarrassed about some of the shit you did when you were on this earth, that I'm just not ready to work with you. And you can tell that spirit that, and let them know that they're not going to be included on this altar. you want to set up a separate space, you can do something that's a little bit separate away. You'll still bring something to honor them as an ancestor, because you are honoring the deceased. So you're bringing something to honor them, but you won't necessarily always be there to like have conversations with them or work with them, or call upon them or use their energy in rituals or anything. You're choosing to omit them out of it until you're ready to kind of graduate them to the bigger altar, the big kids table, right? All right, so you're keeping them separate, and that's pretty okay to do. So that brings me to my next my next tip on how to deal with bad ancestors. Acknowledge them. You must acknowledge them. There's no way around it. They are, you know, I have relatives that today in real life I will avoid them like the plague. Like, I don't want anyone to even know that this person is associated with me. I don't want anybody to know, you're right, that I'm kin to you. No, that's not me. Like my grandma used to tell me, birds of a feather flock together, and I didn't want anybody thinking that I was doing that foolishness that you do. So don't, no, I don't know you.
To say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing.
I would say they're in a heartbeat. I don't know that man. All right, you guys, you know, I gotta kind of have some fun with you, but you know, acknowledge who they are. Even if it's like I said earlier, if you just say, hey, I acknowledge that you passed away, I acknowledge that you are my ancestor. I may have a white slave owner who may have done something wrong, you know, killed off my father, a great grandfather, or great grandmother, or something, and or a mother, you know, something. And I may not be like, listen, when I know that, I may be like, yeah, I don't want to, you caused a lot of pain and hurt to my family, you messed up, you know, a lot. So just acknowledge, say, hey, I acknowledge I have some slave owners in my family. I acknowledge that I might have been with the village, I'm related to the village crazy head, I'm related to the village nut house, I'm related to this murderess. I am related to this person, but I'm not choosing to work with them. But yeah, that person definitely is in my family. So that brings me to our next tip. So helping them to repent. Now remember when I said in tip 1 that you have to allow them to apologize. Just when you acknowledge them, help them. So if it's someone that I may not have known, who may have caused like problems to my grandmother and I may not have known, I'm going to help that person repent. I'm going to try to do, what is it that you need me to do on this physical earth? Do you need me to pass a message on to my grandmother or great grandmother or whatever, to let them know like, hey, you know, so and so is reaching out, they're really sorry about what they did, they want to make this up to you. Do you need me to do a cleansing ritual for you? Do you need me to send some money for you? Do you, like, what do you need me to help you do so you can feel better about what you did, and to help you acknowledge and accept what you did so you can move on? So whatever you can do. You're not going to always know specifically like what to do. There's not always like a ritual or a cleansing to do. Sometimes it comes from just listening to that ancestor and just knowing like, hey, this is what it is. So in the previous video I talked about my grandfather reaching back out to me regarding, you know, I think I put him on my ancestor altar because I needed help with something. And then my grandfather was a big businessman, and I wanted help with trying to start, you know, understanding my business and what to do. And I went and consulted my grandfather, and you know, he told me a lot of things, really a lot of things. But the biggest thing was, you know, his regret for how he treated his children, for what he did to his children. And it wasn't necessarily more so like, I didn't have to go and apologize to his kids or say anything. He just wanted me to know, like, yeah, I did this and I'm sorry, you know, I just want to tell someone that I'm sorry. And I was able to take that for him and and just be like, I had to ask him, like, Grandpa, what do you want me to do with this? And he was just like, nothing. I just wanted to tell someone. So sometimes it is just listening to your ancestors and seeing, and if they ask you to do something, they may say, hey, I need you to go to church for me and light a candle, or I may need you to light a candle and say a prayer for me. Or they may say, hey, can you just go out and maybe volunteer at work with women who have been sexually abused, because I did something wrong and I'm really ashamed for what I did. Can you go and do that? So they may ask you to go and do something for them. Please be open to it, because it is, when we pass away, we have a lot that we have to work through, and sometimes we get the opportunity to still work within the earth plane from the spiritual realm to correct our wrongs. And if they can do that, because they have to atone for it too, if they can do that, please do it to help them. Because when it's your turn and whatever wrong you have done, you're going to call upon one of your ancestors, one of your living relatives, to help you. So think of it that way. You're going to give right now so you can get the same later. It's a karma situation. Give and get, baby. Gotta help them out. Now, healing is going to be the biggest thing. Just listen, and they will tell you, and go and do what they need you to do. All right. So the next tip I have for helping you understand what to do with your bad relatives is to not to take advantage of your bad relative ancestors. Now, just like I said, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and he would be considered like a low energy when he was drunk. And he did a lot of shady shit, y'all. He did a lot of shady shit. But when you have ancestors who are considered low vibrational ancestors, they had very low energy, like they couldn't get their life together, they're still in a repenting stage, they have very bad, like, low energy. Some people use their ancestors to do their negative work, their negative bidding. So they'll be like, listen, I want for you to repent, for you to feel, to make up for what you did. I need you to go and go fuck up somebody's house or something, or my boyfriend broke up with me, go show me that you I can forgive you if you go do something bad to them, or oh, help me get this job and then I'll forgive you. Like, try to do your little bidding, stuff like that. Be careful with that. Don't take advantage of your ancestors, because they're trying to heal. They're in a position where they've already passed away. They're really trying to heal so they can ascend. If they have to be rebirthed, they're going to be rebirthed, so they have to work on those lessons that they didn't pass the first time. So the things they did wrong, they have to relive those things again and do them right if they come back to earth. If not, then they want to be able to ascend, and they can't ascend to the next part because they kind of have to heal. So don't take advantage of them. If they're trying to show you and do what they need to do the right thing, do the right thing. Don't take advantage of them. Don't use them as little entities in your spells, for your hexing spells, doing your dirty work. Don't take advantage of your ancestors. And that's going to be all ancestors, good or bad. Do not take advantage of your family. Just like in today's time, you know how it feels when you get tired of that cousin always asking you for $20, or that cousin that sister who don't never have a car or never have anything, and he always wants you to be like, okay, you help me do this, can you help me do this? Or that uncle who always wants you to go get him a drink, something. If we get tired of that, they're going to get tired of that too. And what they can do is they will flip roles on you in a heartbeat, and you'll find yourself doing their bidding, and it may not always be as pretty as you think it may be, especially when you're working with negative entities. So keep that in mind. Well, that was my 6th tip. I think it should be number 6, but don't trigger low vibration ancestors. Now, be mindful. If you are, like I said, my paternal sides have addictions really bad, drug and alcohol. And for me, I know that if I have like my altars in my room, which it should not be in my room, but I don't have the space for it, so it's in my room. I have to be mindful to not overindulge in certain things, because they're feeding off my energy. If I'm coming to their altar, I'm talking with them, I'm working with them, they're feeding off my energy. And if I'm like always drunk or high or having sex too much, and it could have been like an ancestor who has like a sex addiction, it could be someone who I don't know, just whatever. Don't trigger your negative energies, because just like when it's a festivity and good things, the spirits come around to be a part of, to observe and be a part of. They come around for the negative things. So they see something that smells like what they're used to. They smells, you guys, and sounds are the biggest like drawers to them. So they smell something like, oh, that smells like that weed. I remember when I used to hit it like that. Or they remember like, oh my god, that's my favorite drink. Let me just go sniff it, you know, just so I can get a little bit of reminiscence of a little bit of what earth used to feel like. They're still transitioning, especially those ones that are transitioning from death, from earth to spiritual world, and they're still have those physical attachments. You know, you might bake some brownies or something, and that aunt who just loves sweets may come around, and you may start smelling her perfume. You be like, oh, auntie, I smell you. And she'd be like, girl, remember I used to teach you how to make those brownies? Yes. Or that cake? Yes. You know, so keep in mind not to trigger your low vibrational ancestors with low vibrational things. So be mindful of that. Try to protect yourself. Try not to overindulge in certain things, especially when you are around your ancestor altar, especially when you are more open. Because when you're open, especially when drinking and smoking and things like that, when you're open spiritually, you're open physically, you're able to trigger and channel a lot more easier than you are when you're not in those headspaces. So be very mindful. I've said this several times. I've said it several times and several times again. My last tip is just remember to listen to your ancestors. That's gonna always probably be on every list that I probably do with my ancestors, because just listen. Sometimes they're going to give you guidance. You need to be able to identify what their voices sound like, who is talking to you, what they're saying, if it's right, because you'll have some ancestors that'll talk to you, just like you may have that aunt who was the shit stirrer of the family. She's going to be probably still a shit stirrer in the afterlife. So you have to be mindful. Like if that aunt comes around and, you know, maybe you're sleeping and she might be like, you know what, I just heard so and so talking about you, they really don't like you, and now you're feeding up on that energy, of that gossiping energy. Or you may be at your ancestor altar, you may have, you know, they may still be there. You can deal with vengeful spirits still. Your ancestors can be vengeful spirits. So when you're working with bad ancestors, keep that in mind, that there may be some that may be freaking livid for how things are turning out. They may be angry and still filled with hurt and disappointment from their regular life that they carried on with them to their spiritual world, and they may want to wreak havoc on the family. They may want to wreak havoc on you. So they may, you know, try to stir some shit up or talk to you about some stuff that you may not be like you want to do. In those instances, if you can catch it, just shut it out. Just shut it out. Sometimes they can be persistent, but if you need to dismiss them, simply dismiss them. I don't like to use sage when I do like to cleanse my altar, but I try not to use it too much or use like salt in the food, because I don't want to like dismiss all of my ancestors. But before you start like your ancestral rituals, or before you talk with your ancestors, you can sit down and just say, I'm only inviting in these ancestors, or I'm inviting ancestors in with good and positive vibrations, because you're going to feed off of their energy and they're feeding off of your energy. So you have to make sure that you guys are on the same page. Like y'all have to be same page, same sentence, same book. Y'all got to be on the same page. So if you're not ready to deal with those negative little energies, you know, you can dismiss them. Like, I'm not allowing you guys to come into the sacred space right now, or I'm only working with the ancestors that are, who have my highest good in place, or who is positive, and whatever. Say whatever you need to do. But when they begin to talk, listen. Sometimes you can probably talk them through it. Like if you have that aunt who may be like still pissed off at her husband, I keep saying aunt. Okay, so let's do, maybe you have an uncle who maybe like passed away early, who may be pissed off at his mom who's still alive, for some shit that she did to him. You can listen listen to him and talk him through it. Explain, listen, I'm sorry that happened to you. Maybe you didn't think about it that way. Maybe it was this way. Or I'm sorry that this happened to you. Are you ready to let it go? You know, did you just want to share this information with me? Do you want me to talk to her? Do you need me to do something for you to make you feel better? Do you want to hear an apology from your mom? Do you know, something like, try to talk to them. Like you guys, I'm sorry, my hair is like really making me itch. But if you really want an answer and they need help them. Like talk them through it like you would talk a friend. Like a friend came to you for advice, talk them through it. So just when a spirit comes to you and they're telling you about, you know, my mama did this and this to me, and they did this and this, just talk to them. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. Is there something you need me to do? Is there a way that you want me to help you feel better? Kind of talk them through it and see how everything goes. All right, so you guys, that is the end of today's video. I'm so glad you stuck with me this long. If you have any cool stories that you want to share with you about your ancestors, or the connections or conversations, or any of the bad ancestors you've had to kind of dismiss, then comment down below. I'm going to be in those comments, you guys. I can't wait to see what all you have to say. All right, in love and light, have a good day.